Reptile breeders tend to struggle at making a name for themselves and growing the brand of their reptile business. But there are three simple aspects that if reptile breeders kept in mind as they went about marketing their business, that would drastically help them be more effective in the long run. And rather than waiting until we get through this whole video where we dole out each individual piece bit by bit, we're just gonna go ahead and throw it out up front that those three aspects are alignment, clarity, and uniqueness. But for this week's video, we are going to dive into each of those in depth and talk about how we can combine all three together to make more effective reptile marketing. Anyways, my name's Steven with Leviathan, and let's get to it. Alignment is something that we talk about quite a bit, and at its core, it deals with understanding who your ideal customer is, and then doing everything that you can to attract that person's attention, get them to engage with your business and with your brand, and ultimately show them that your business, your brand was made exactly for either somebody like them or somebody that they want to be like. Clarity is when you are able to clearly communicate the value that you, your business, the animals, and the content that you are making to market your brand has to that ideal customer. Uniqueness focuses on the entire space that you are in, and it deals with focusing on the aspects that make you stand out compared to everybody else that is going to be competing against you for that ideal customer. Before we dive deeper, I want to talk about the ideal customer in a little bit more detail, because the ideal customer is different for every single business. You might be thinking that the ideal customer is the person who is going to spend the most amount of money on an animal with you, and if you're thinking about it in this realm, you're probably going to be led to looking at the high-end side of breeding and looking at those really high dollar animals. But this might not be the ideal customer for everybody, because maybe you don't produce any animals or you barely produce any animals that could really serve that kind of market. And instead, maybe the majority of the animals that you produce are those that are better suited as entry-level pets and are not going to be very appealing to somebody who's looking in at the high-end side of the ball python breeding world. So in this particular situation, a brand new pet customer is more likely to be your ideal customer if you're just starting out than that super high-end ball python breeder. So I say all of this because it is so important to understand who your ideal customer is and then build your business around them. So with all this said, how do we apply these concepts to a reptile business's marketing in order to make it better? And I'm gonna start on YouTube right now because that's what we do, and I find it a little bit easier to really dive into all these concepts using a YouTube video as an example because it's more long form and it's easier to hit all of them in one individual thing. So for alignment, let's say that your ideal customer is people who are just starting to take breeding ball pythons seriously, and they are moving from hobby to the very early stages of doing this as a business. So these people are probably going to not be looking for information on how do you breed ball pythons because they already got that information when they were moving from pet keeper to breeder. Instead, they are going to be looking for information like, how do I market my reptile business? How do I sell a ton of animals? How do I do taxes on it? How should I structure my business to be set up for success in the future? And by aligning your content to focus on these topics, it is going to be more likely to appeal to your ideal customer, which in this case is that person who's going from hobby to business and is going to be more likely to be valuable to them. So that also comes into the second aspect, which is clarity. If you are able to clearly communicate that this specific YouTube video is going to teach your ideal customer how they can improve their marketing, it is going to make it very easy for them to see that video's thumbnail, see that video's title, and decide for themselves if that's something that they want to watch. And then lastly on this is uniqueness, because it can be really, really hard to find a topic that hasn't been covered before. So one recommendation that I have in order to make more unique videos that don't feel like that you are just regurgitating everything else that is on the internet is to take two different concepts and meld them together. So let's say that we were going to be talking about a marketing tips kind of video, but we also wanted to talk about the ways and reasons why people get out of the breeding hobby. So you could combine these two things together and make a video that was titled 7 Different Mistakes That Drive Reptile Breeders Out of Business. And that video is probably going to do way better than just simply a video that was titled 7 Marketing Tips for Reptile Breeders. Now, this doesn't only apply to YouTube. This can also apply to TikTok, it can apply to Instagram, it can really apply to any social media marketing that you do, but it changes just a little bit depending on the exact platform. For example, if you are going to be trying to make an Instagram reel to promote your reptile business, you could take an animal and show it off, and it might look amazing because maybe you have great lighting and a great camera. But if you don't add anything else to it, it's probably going to blend in to everything else that everybody is doing on Instagram and TikTok, because that's not very unique. But if you are able to take that exact same video and add a voiceover to it where you tell a story about that animal, it is far more likely to be engaging. And if all of your videos are like that, that is going to set you apart, because that's not something that most people are doing on those platforms. So if every single time you're showing off an animal, you're telling a little teeny tiny anecdote about it, it is probably going to get people to remember you more than just the people who are showing off all their snakes. The last one that I want to talk about deals with podcasts. And while a lot of podcasts are on YouTube, I think they're a little bit different than regular YouTube videos. So that's why I didn't talk about them at that point in time. But I think that podcasts are super, super popular within the reptile hobby. But if you compare the numbers between long form podcasts, such as 1.5, 2 hour, 3 hour long podcasts, to traditional YouTube videos on YouTube in the reptile space, the traditional YouTube videos tend to vastly outperform the podcasts. And I think that the reason for this is that most podcasts have amazing tidbits of information in them, but it might be 10, 15, 20 minutes into the podcast itself, and unless you already know that that podcaster, those guests, are going to be amazing founts of information or just really, really entertaining, it's very unlikely that new people are going to watch a video for 20 minutes before it gets to the good stuff, if that makes sense. So I think that if you are looking at marketing your reptile business through a podcast, if you make sure that the topics that you discuss align to your specific ideal customer, and the entire time you are clearly communicating the value that that topic has or that guest has to your ideal customer, you are going to do far better. But again, you still run into a little bit of challenges on the uniqueness, because there are a lot of reptile podcasts out right now. So if you can take a different element, something else, and combine it into your podcast, it's very likely that that can make yourself way more unique. So an example of this that is outside of the reptile hobby is Hot Ones, where they interview celebrities as they eat hot wings. So simply combining these two different things together makes it a far more unique experience than just simply having another talk show about celebrities. So if you're able to do something like this in the reptile world, you probably are going to be instantly more recognizable in everybody who's doing podcasts, because you are going to have something that is unique about yourself. And again, that's just not really something that happens a lot in the reptile space. There are so many different ways that you can apply the concepts of alignment, clarity, and uniqueness into your marketing efforts for your reptile business in order to supercharge the results. And I think that the only thing that limits you is your own creativity. So as you get better and as you practice combining different elements together, you are going to find that you are making vastly more effective content in the future than you are right now. If you guys are interested in getting any additional help with this, we actually just had one spot open up on the top tier of our Patreon where we do monthly one-on-one calls with people on any topic that they want, but it tends to be about marketing in general. And this top tier spot, all of the money that you pay for it goes as credit towards a future snake purchase with us. So my tagline for the Patreon is that if you think that you might want to buy an animal from us at some point in time, if you join the Patreon, you aren't losing out on anything because, like I said, every single dollar that you spend in your Patreon fees will be able to be applied to that purchase in the future. Anyways, we hope you guys enjoyed the video, and if you did, please don't forget to hit the like button, leave a comment, and subscribe, and we will see you next week.